Muy buenos días a todos. Me confirman de...
Thank you. I am told that we have a quorum by the Secretariat, and therefore we can start. And I hereby call to order this extraordinary session of the Permanent Council, convened at the request of the Permanent Mission of Panama to the OAS under Article 14 of the statutes and 37 of the Rules of Procedure, with a view to receiving the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Panama, His Excellency Mr. Javier Martinez Acha Vasquez. Welcome, Mr. Minister. Good morning. We are most pleased to receive you in the context of preparing the 56th regular session of the General Assembly. With this view in mind, and under Article 43 of the Rules of Procedure, I put to your consideration the draft agenda contained in document CP/OD-2594/26. As there are no comments, it is approved. Before we proceed, I would like to ask the Council if we can grant an exceptional waiver to the maximum time allotted for statements set forth in Article 46 of the Rules of Procedure. The purpose of this waiver is to grant the Minister a maximum amount of time to make his presentation, which would be up to 20 minutes. I see no objections. It is so agreed. Thank you very much, one and all. Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, on behalf of the Permanent Council, it is my great pleasure to most cordially welcome the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Panama, His Excellency Mr. Javier Martinez Acha Vasquez. We receive him with gratitude here in the House of the Americas, as well as the distinguished members of his delegation accompanying him today. You're welcome, one and all. Mr. Minister, please receive the gratitude of this Council for your presence at this extraordinary session, convened in the context of preparing the 56th regular session of the General Assembly. The General Assembly will take place in Panama City in June, very soon. Your participation is particular importance for the hemispheric dialogue and for the preparatory efforts to organize a General Assembly that will be productive and which will account for our various common priorities. Thank you very much for being with us today. In keeping with the agenda, which was agreed upon, I now am pleased to grant the floor to the Secretary General of the Organization of American States, Mr. Albert Randin. You have the floor, sir.
Good morning, and thank you very much, Madam Chair. It's a special welcome for Your Excellency Javier Martinez Acha Vasquez, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Republic of Panama, and our host at the next General Assembly. Distinguished permanent representatives, distinguished permanent observers, Ambassador Laura Gil, Assistant Secretary General, special mention of Ambassador Ana Irene Delgado, permanent representative to the Organization of American States, our distinguished colleagues from the Secretariat, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I'm very honored with the presence of Minister Acha today. Minister, your presence today is particularly relevant as Panama advances its preparations to host the 56th regular session of the General Assembly of the Organization of American States. We are indeed grateful for your leadership and for your government's commitment to ensuring a successful session that reflects the priorities of our member states and the needs of our hemisphere. This assembly carries special historical significance as 2026 has been declared the bicentennial year of the 1826 Anfitriónico Congreso of Panama, an early expression, but an important early expression of hemispheric cooperation. While the circumstances have evolved, the aspirations remains to build common ground and to respond collectively to regional challenges. Today, those and now also global and hemispheric challenges are increasingly complex, interconnected, and affecting the economies of our member states. A couple of days ago, one of our presidents, President Irvanali of Guyana, called to all transport providers, globally and domestically, to not escalate prices amid fuel price pressures. This is just one example of the challenges which we face as a consequence. And I must say that apart from these economic pressures, our member states continue to face pressures on democratic institutions, persistent security concerns, transnational organized crime, and the demands of inclusive and sustainable development. In this context, the relevance of the inter-American system depends on its ability to remain focused, to adapt, and to deliver results that are meaningful for our society. The Panama General Assembly, as I call it, will be of strategic importance. We expect guidance and directions from member states to facilitate the work of the Organization of American States. We expect directions from ministers regarding the political, social, and economic challenges facing the Americas and how we can bring about more unity, coherence, and progress for the people of the Americas. After a little more than 1 year in office, I will use the opportunity in the General Assembly to report extensively on the activities and achievements of the OAS in strategic and substantive policy areas such as democracy, human rights, institutional reform, and development. This is only the beginning to make the OAS an institution for serving all member states and a political instrument to foster peace and prosperity. Honorable Minister, under Panama's leadership, under your stewardship, much is expected at this particular moment in the history of the Organization of American States to continue the path of unity and progress. I thank you, therefore, and all member states for their valuable substantive contribution and cooperation in achieving these objectives. I thank the General Secretariat staff for their contribution and their dedication to the goals of the OAS. Madam Chair, distinguished representatives, the General Assembly is our principal political forum for collective direction. It is an opportunity to set priorities and guide the work of the OAS in a manner that is both realistic and forward-looking. As a country that connects oceans, regions, and peoples, Panama represents not only geographic convergence, but also the possibility of dialogue across differences. In that regard, we welcome the theme elected by your government, Mr. Minister, firm multilateralism in defense of democracy, hemispheric security, and stability in the American states. The ongoing negotiations toward the Declaration of Panama represent an important opportunity for member states to reaffirm shared principles. At the same time, the preparations led by Panama reflect a clear commitment to ensuring an efficient and well-organized assembly. Coordination with the General Secretariat and other actors has been essential in advancing a productive preparatory process. The actions of member states to strengthen the focus and effectiveness of the Assembly, including the recent agreement on mandates management, represent an important step towards greater clarity and coherence, allowing the organization to concentrate on essential priorities and to better supplement implementation. I would also like to recognize the active role and engagement of the Office of the Assistant Secretary General in the preparations for the General Assembly, including the coordination undertaken in support of a successful and substantive session. Ambassador Hill, as this is your first General Assembly, in terms of the organization, I thank you and your team for the steadfast and intense leadership that will also help to make sure that we have a good start and that we conclude the General Assembly in a successful manner. Allow me to conclude by reiterating our appreciation to Panama, to President Jose Raul Molino, and to you, Minister, and your team, ably led by Vice Minister Carlos Guevara-Mann, as well as Panama's permanent representative, Ambassador Ana Irene Delgado, for the leadership and continued commitment to the inter-American system and to multilateralism. We look forward to working closely with you in the coming weeks and to a General Assembly that reflects both the shared history and the common future of the Americas, that honors the enduring spirit of meaningful cooperation envisioned in Panama 2 centuries ago. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Secretary General. Y ahora es
And now it's a great honor for me to give the floor to His Excellency, Mr. Javier Martinez Acha Vasquez, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Panama. Minister, you have the floor, sir. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Excellencies, Alejandro Solano, Ambassador Representative of Costa Rica to the OAS and Chair of the Permanent Council. Excellency, Albert Brandin, my dear friend, Secretary General of the Organization of American States, Excellency Lara Hill, Assistant Secretary General, permanent representatives and alternates, observer states, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues from the Panamanian delegation. I appear here in this hemispheric house on behalf of the Republic of Panama with a deep-seated sense of historic responsibility. I do so at an extraordinary time for our nation and for the Americas. This year, we are commemorating the bicentennial of the Panamanian Congress in 1926, in memory of Simón Bolívar, the great liberator, who understood that independent peoples of the America would not survive in isolation or in conflict with each other. They needed to stand united through principle and through shared destiny and destiny. That is why in this historic year that Panama will be greatly honored to be presiding over the 56th General Assembly or regular session of the Organization of American States in Panama from the 26th to the 24th of June. And that's why I bring a message of fraternity and a direct message from the President of Panama, President Molino. Panama is looking forward to receiving you, and we invite you to meet once again in the hemisphere. President Molino would like to personally extend to each and every delegation and permanent observers an official invitation to go to Panama and to actively participate in a meeting that will not just be one more meeting on the diplomatic calendar. Rather, it will be a political and moral turning point for the Americas. We wish an assembly based on consensus and not based on ideological cleavage. We wish to have speeches that are not empty words, an assembly of democratic coexistence peacefully. Because the Americas need less noise and more agreement. It needs less rhetorical confrontation and more practical cooperation. We need to go back to wanting in a multilateralism that is useful, multilateralism that serves to solve real problems. Excellencies, Panama historically and well before the Congress of 1826, Panama had been seen as a historical place of convergence of the Americas. In 1815, the historic charter reflected the importance of the American states, and the liberator, Simón Bolívar, reflected the desire of American states and a continent based on unity. And that was a vision that became more concrete many years later when Panama was chosen as a place to receive all governments of the continent. As the Greeks said during the Corinthian times, to deal with major issues such as peace, defense, and the common destiny and fate of our peoples. Panama was set as the center of the universe, not as a poetic metaphor, but rather as a geopolitical definition. In fact, that continues to be alive. Panama has historically been a bridge, a place for encounters and meetings, a space for dialogue. We are a small country in land, but immense in international vocation. We are a nation whose presence shows that cooperation amongst people is possible. And it is precisely for that reason that we very deeply value diplomacy. And we believe in the consistency of agreement in the midst of differences, in the peaceful resolution of disputes. We want mutual respect amongst states, and we want an inter-American system that preserves those principles, striking a balance between caution and historic sense, because multilateralism is not just about thinking the same way. It's about learning to live with each other, even though we think differently. Decades ago, the Costa Rican President Oscar Arias said, "Peace is not just an absence of war, it's the presence of opportunity." And he was correct, because today, the most dangerous threats to our democracies do not come just from traditional conflict. They also come from extreme inequality, from a social despair, from a loss of confidence in institutions, and the inability to create real opportunity for millions of citizens. To date, in the Americas, there are fathers that have to choose between eating dinner or keeping food for the breakfast of their children. There are young people who feel that their future has been canceled before it was even started. Millions of human beings that are caught between violence, poverty, and frustration. And while that is happening, very often our societies continue to be caught up in ideological confrontations that do not resolve the problem of hunger or exclusion. Gabriel Garcia Marquez once said that the interpretation of our reality with foreign overlays leads to knowing ourselves less, being less free, and standing in less solidarity. And that is why the Americas have to find their own solutions. They need to do so with pragmatism, with a minimum consensus, and they need to understand that one ideology cannot monopolize the truth absolutely. And we need to recall that democracy cannot survive without living together. Excellencies, the OAS has been a fundamental institution for the hemisphere. Its history is not perfect. No human institution is perfect, but the OAS has been vital to the defense of democracy. We in Panama experienced it in 2024 when the candidate, Jose Malina, some people wanted to eliminate him and rob him of the right to present himself as a candidate. Thanks to the OAS, the democratic process in Panama was a success, and I now stand here before you representing that government. The OAS needs to be able to fight for human rights, for legal cooperation, for hemispheric security, and the preservation of inter-American dialogue. And we need that precisely because in that we must strengthen it. That does not mean making it a scenario of ongoing confrontation. What it means is returning the OAS to credibility. It means bringing the OAS closer to its citizens. It means making it more efficient and effective, more realistic, more useful, because there are great contemporary challenges, and those are about reconciling principles with the capacity to act. Institutions are not judged by people due to their declarations. They are judged by their results. And that's why today our peoples are expecting results. They are expecting solutions vis-a-vis transnational organized crime. They expect cooperation about drug trafficking. They expect responses given irregular migratory flows. They expect quality education. They expect access to opportunity. They expect democratic stability. They expect dignity. And that is where multilateralism must show its true utility. Panama believes that at the time of building a new hemispheric stage based on three great pillars. The first pillar is the defense of democracy and fundamental freedoms. The second pillar is creating shared prosperity and real opportunity. The third pillar is preserving hemispheric coexistence and living together through mutual respect and dialogue. We cannot allow polarization to destroy the democratic fabric of our societies. We cannot accept that a political construction would become an enemy. We cannot allow hate to take over, because when living together disappears, what we also see disappear is democracy. His Excellency Patricio Alvin said in an extraordinary sentence, democracy is built between enemies, between adversaries, not between enemies. And that should be the spirit that motivates our General Assembly. We do not come to further deepen cleavages, but to build bridges. We do not come to impose, but rather to dialogue. We do not come to bring fracture and cleavage to the hemisphere, but rather to strengthen it. Excellencies, the Americas are at a decisive moment in time, and we're living through a moment of global uncertainty, increasing geopolitical tension. Organized crime, transnational organized crime, undermines our democracies, both from without and from within. Democracy is under attack, and never have we had so much capacity for instantaneous communication, but also the capacity for such massive manipulation. Today, a cell phone can alter political processes. It can destroy reputations or motivate social violence in just a matter of hours. And that's why it's vital to think hemispherically, seriously, about cooperation vis-a-vis cybercrime and technological mechanisms that are used to destabilize democratic societies. At the same time, we need to avoid falling into patterns that sacrifice our freedoms. We need to think responsibly with democratic maturity. As the Uruguayan president said, Sanguinetti, freedom is not compatible with fanaticism. And that might be one of the great lessons that Americas need to learn again. Excellencies, Panama wants this General Assembly to be remembered as one of a re-encounter at the hemispheric level of democratic coexistence, the assembly of possible consensus, and I repeat, possible consensus, to put themes on ideal tables, but we should not twist the proper functioning of this General Assembly. The General Assembly where the Americas decided to go back to speaking serenely. We serve not just as hosts for you, but also as facilitators of dialogue.
We want Panama to be once again a place where the Americas meet to think about their future, under the slogan, "The Americas United on the Bicentennial of the Congress of Panama," and with the theme, "Firm Multilateralism in Defense of Democracy, Hemispheric Security, and Stability in the American States." Panama aspires to a future based on human dignity, democracy, cooperation, freedom, and respect amongst sovereign nations, with the conviction that our differences should never prevent us from living together side by side. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the true purpose of the inter-American system. It is not confrontation, it is hemispheric peace. And peace cannot be built only with treaties. It is built upon trust, understanding, respect, political will, and the ability to recognize that even though we may have differences, we have a shared destiny. Panama welcomes you with open arms. We are a democratic nation, a nation that is a bridge, that believes in dialogue, a nation that continues to believe in the Americas and wants to reconcile the Americas with themselves. And here I quote Juan Bosch, Peoples who do not understand each other are condemned to destroy each other. We want to choose another path. We choose understanding, cooperation, we choose coexistence and living together because we still believe in the Americas. We still believe in democracy and we still believe in diplomacy. We still believe that the Americas can be a community of free, sovereign, democratic nations united by common principles, and especially, I repeat, by democratic principles. We welcome you in Panama. Thank you for your time.
Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minister, for your presentation. This Permanent Council would like to extend warm greetings to the government of your country in preparation for the 56th regular session of the highest body of our organization, recalling the commitment and efforts made to hold this significant hemispheric meeting. We have also taken due note of the slogan proposed by your delegation, the Americas united on the bicentennial of the Amphictyonic Congress of Panama under the theme Firm Multilateralism in Defense of Democracy, Hemispheric Security and Stability in the American States. We join you in choosing this theme, which reflects the spirit of hemispheric cooperation and principles that guide the work of the OAS. I would now like to offer the floor to delegations who wish to address the matter at hand today. I offer the floor first to the Ambassador of Antigua and Barbuda. Sir, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chair. As the representative of Antigua and Barbuda, and as the host country of the previous regular session of the General Assembly held in June last year, I wish to express our appreciation to the Foreign Minister of Panama for his comprehensive presentation this morning on the preparations for the 56th regular session of the General Assembly of the OAS. Having ourselves recently borne the responsibility and privilege of hosting this important hemispheric gathering, we understand fully the magnitude of the task that Panama now confronts. The organization of a successful General Assembly depends not only on logistical precision and administrative discipline, but also on vision, patience, and an unwavering commitments to the ideals of our inter-American community. We have every confidence that Panama, with its customary dedication and distinguished tradition of international engagement, will provide facilities and arrangements worthy of a nation whose great canal bridges two oceans and symbolically connects the peoples and commerce of the world. Panama has long stood as a meeting point of civilizations, cultures, and aspirations, and we are certain that this same spirit will animate the forthcoming assembly. But, Madam Chair, the burden of success does not rest upon the host country alone. We, the member states of the organization, bear a collective responsibility and a duty to repay Panama's efforts by ensuring that the Assembly becomes a moment of consensus, cooperation, and constructive purpose in the service of all the peoples of the Americas. As the General Assembly, hosted by Antigua and Barbuda last year, delegations worked diligently and in good faith to settle resolutions and declarations here in this House of the OAS, so that our ministers could devote their attention not to procedural disputes, but to the larger task of strengthening this organization and preserving its relevance and vitality in challenging times. That spirit of cooperation contributed significantly to the success of that meeting. Accordingly, I call upon all delegations to approach the preparations for the General Assembly in Panama with the same sense of shared purpose and responsibility. Let us endeavor to complete our negotiations in advance, to narrow our differences where we can, and to conduct our deliberations in a manner worthy of the ideals upon which this organization was founded. If we do so, the General Assembly in Panama will be remembered, not merely as another annual meeting, but as the occasion on which the member states of this organization drew inspiration from the spirit of Panama itself, a spirit of connection, passage, dialogue, and unity. It can become the moment when we strengthen still further the pillars upon which the Organization of American States is built: democracy, cooperation, mutual respect, peace, development, and solidarity amongst all our peoples. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador. Y le damos la palabra al embajador.
I now give the floor to Ambassador Czerny of Argentina. Madam Chair, good morning. Secretary General, Assistant Secretary General, dear colleagues, for me it is an honor to have the Foreign Minister of the brother country of Panama here with us. Frankly, the first thing I'd like to do is thank him for making the decision to come here and be here at our organization and to tell us firsthand about the aspirations that Panama has in organizing this upcoming meeting, this General Assembly. And I know that in Spanish we talk about a Congreso, a Congress, and I can't help but think of that word because I think about the first Congress that took place in Panama. And I know that we will experience an extraordinary moment in the Americas. Please receive the greetings of my foreign minister, because I know you work together on shared agendas, and so allow me to convey his greetings to you. I think we fully share the essence of what you expressed in your remarks. Preparations are underway in Washington here at the OAS in the lead-up to the General Assembly. Please rest assured you can count on Argentina. We are working to build bridges and achieve those consensuses that you mentioned so that we can avoid any type of situation where there are confrontations that can be produced in a context that is very particular. There is always a reason to find differences amongst us, but the art of this is to find that common denominator that allows us to be one in the Americas. I also recognize that we have many challenges ahead of us, and we cannot be silent about them, and that, of course, will resonate at the General Assembly. And this has to do with outstanding debts and democratic processes that still do not exist in the Americas. And this is part of our commitment. Continue promoting democracy in all countries of the Americas because it is connected to our own democracy and security. We need democratic and secure neighbors. These are issues that bring us all together, and there's already a great consensus on issues such as Haiti. Surely that will be an issue discussed at the Assembly, and it is a priority of the Americas. Security was also mentioned. We also have challenges that can't be resolved by one country alone. We need to continue reaffirming the idea that we are cooperating together, and that is what allows us to address major challenges in hemispheric security, mainly due to transnational organized criminal groups. Through that message, I wish to reaffirm my country's commitment to ensure that everything that we do here will allow us to celebrate in Panama, and it will be a great pleasure to be with our Panamanian colleagues and to hold a very extraordinary General Assembly, because we fully believe that that is what it will be. Thank you very much, Madam Chair and Mr. Foreign Minister. Thank you. I now offer the floor to Paraguay. Ambassador Florentine. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I would like to express my gratitude to the Foreign Minister of the Republic of Panama, and I thank him for his presentation on the preparations for the 56th regular session of the OAS General Assembly. Paraguay deeply values Panama's commitment in organizing and hosting this important hemispheric meeting, which is an important opportunity for political dialogue, cooperation, and seeking consensus amongst our states. We also wish to note that the next General Assembly will take place at a very significant time for our hemisphere. We are also commemorating the Amphitryon Congress of Panama, which took place in 1826, which sought to bring together nations of the Americas. 2 centuries ago, Panama developed this vocation in the hemisphere by holding this Congress and starting a tradition of hemispheric meeting, which we see continue today. The Amphitryon Congress of Panama was one of the major efforts that took place initially to bring countries in the hemisphere together, and it was an effort towards political multilateralism, and that is what characterizes the OAS today. We heard about the importance of strengthening dialogue, solidarity, and understanding amongst our peoples. In this spirit, Paraguay would like to reiterate that we have excellent relations of friendship and brotherhood between Paraguay and Panama. These ties have been strengthened over time based on mutual respect and the shared willingness to work together to achieve a more united and prosperous hemisphere. We reiterate our support for Panama in the preparations for the General Assembly, and we wish you the greatest success in your work. Paraguay will continue to work with Panama so that this General Assembly is truly a demonstration of unity within our hemisphere. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, sir. I now offer the floor to the Ambassador from Canada. Thank you very much, dear esteemed Chair. We are delighted to have with us today the Foreign Minister of Panama, Javier Martinez H. Vasquez, for this special meeting of the Permanent Council. We greatly appreciate his informative presentation on the vision that his government has for the upcoming OAS General Assembly. Panama has a great deal of experience in organizing high-level events. We are, in fact, celebrating 200 years of this experience. The Assembly will surely be a great success. It will be a testament to the recognized, renowned hospitality of Panama. We welcome the theme chosen by Panama for the Assembly because it underscores the essential role of multilateralism, and particularly of the OAS, to strengthen democracy and security in the hemisphere.
OAS is essential for advancing democracy, human rights, regional security, integral development, and shared prosperity across the Americas. Our combined efforts in this endeavor must include upholding human rights, promoting the rule of law, advancing gender equality, including LGBTI+ rights, ensuring the full, equal, and meaningful participation and leadership of all women in political, social, and economic spheres, and supporting inclusive economic development. Protecting civil space and the freedoms of expression, assembly, and association are essential components of democracy. The presence of civil society and private sector partners at the General Assembly in dialogue with our political leaders is an embodiment of those values. The security, prosperity, and democratic stability of our region are deeply interconnected and reinforce one another. Nowhere do we see this more in reality and the resultant complications when they are absent than in our dear neighbor Haiti, where the OAS has such an important role to continue to play. Addressing security and economic challenges presents an opportunity to bolster economic relations and security cooperation. By working collectively and collaboratively through the OAS, we can support one another in addressing democratic and security challenges. Together, we can make the hemisphere shine even brighter as a beacon of democratic resilience and at a critical geopolitical inflection point. We are confident that this Assembly General will be a success, both logistically and as a multilateral moment for strengthening democratic values and security in our hemisphere. We are grateful for Panama for hosting this event, and they can count on us for our constructive and active participation. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Muchas gracias, embajador.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. I now give the floor to Brazil. Ambassador Belli, you have the floor. Thank you, Madam Chair. Brazil would like to most especially thank the Minister of Panama for honoring us with his presence, Mr. Martinez Acha Vasquez, and his presentation of the preparation for the upcoming General Assembly of the OAS. Choosing the site of Panama as the host for the next General Assembly could not be more auspicious. In 2026, we commemorated the bicentennial of the Amphitryon Congress of 1826, convened by the great liberator Simon Bolivar, the inaugural context for the aspiration of crafting, through political consultation, a common identity forged amongst nations in our region. We congratulate Panama for the historical relevance of this anniversary and the memory planted on behalf of all of us. Madam Chair, we commemorate 200 years of the Amphitryon Congress, and we must work for a General Assembly in Panama that will reflect our best values, common values, and the spirit of union, cooperation, and the quest for consensus. Multilateralism, international law are bringing growing pressures to bear, and the temptation to replace dialogue with force is not abstract. It's not an idea. It's seen in conflicts, in setbacks in democracies, and the erosion of institutions that cost a great deal to build. The General Assembly is an opportunity to reaffirm ourselves collectively on the idea of cooperation based on mutual respect as the only sustainable path. We must promote unity within diversity as against the polarization that weakens our capacity to act together. And that's why we need to honor our commitments in the area of human rights. Brazil reaffirms its engagement vis-a-vis protection of the most vulnerable people, women, children, people with disabilities, indigenous people, Afro-descendants, LGBTQ+ persons, all of those who historically have been the victims of exclusion and discrimination. We must work in good faith, without subterfuge and without procrastination, to enhance the framework of cooperation of the OAS in these areas. We would also reaffirm our vision of a region that believes in peace, in the peaceful resolution of disputes, in the respect of sovereignty of states, in the strengthening of democracy, and promoting sustainable development as a prerequisite for human dignity. Only through genuine cooperation can we face those challenges that no single country can overcome in isolation, be they climate change, eradicating poverty, combating organized crime, inter alia. Brazil will be the city of Panama City committed and trusting in the future. Thank you, Ambassador, says the chair. I now give the floor to the Dominican Republic. Ambassador.
Señora Presidenta.
Madam Chair, the delegation of the Dominican Republic would like to warmly welcome His Excellency Mr. Javier Martinez Acha Vasquez, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Panama. We thank him for his distinguished presence and his presentation on the preparations and the path that we have ahead of us in the lead up to the 56th regular session of the OAS General Assembly. The Dominican Republic expresses its sincerest thanks to the Republic of Panama for the timely and inspiring theme guiding our deliberations. It links decisively the strengthening of multilateralism with the preservation of democratic institutions, stability, multidimensional security, and this responds to the most pressing challenges of our region. For our country, strengthening tools for international cooperation, dialogue, and preventive diplomacy are crucial in order to face in a coordinated manner the transnational dynamics that threaten the peace and comprehensive development of our nations. We fully agree that commemorating the bicentennial of the Amphictyonic Congress of Panama, a historic milestone, is an opportunity, an exceptional and unique opportunity to reflect upon the shared commitments that we have to modernize our response capacities and to strengthen the rule of law to benefit our peoples. Mr. Foreign Minister, the Dominican Republic reaffirms its commitment to actively support the sister Republic of Panama throughout this preparatory process. We will work hand in hand and with the greatest spirit of collaboration to ensure that the 56th regular session of the OAS General Assembly is a resounding success. We fully believe that under the leadership of Panama and through the commitment and solidarity of all member states, this assembly will translate into tangible results that will strengthen unity, resilience, and the well-being of our hemisphere. I thank you. Thank you, Ambassador. I now offer the floor to Guatemala. Ambassador, thank you. The delegation of Guatemala welcomes His Excellency Mr. Javier Martinez Acha Vasquez, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Panama, on the occasion of this special meeting of the Permanent Council, which has been convened to discuss preparations for the 56th regular session of the OAS General Assembly, which will be held in Panama City from 22 to 24 June 2026. My delegation is grateful for the presentation that was provided by the distinguished foreign minister and the information shared about progress made in organization, priorities, and principles guiding the work of this upcoming General Assembly. Guatemala especially values the efforts of the Panamanian government as host country to ensure that this important hemispheric meeting takes place with the right conditions and will strengthen political dialogue amongst member states. Guatemala believes that the next General Assembly is an opportunity to reaffirm the importance of multilateralism in the Americas as a place for dialogue and consensus building to address the shared challenges in our region. At a complex time in the hemisphere, it is key for the OAS to continue strengthening its response capacity to promote democracy, human rights, integral development, multidimensional security, the rule of law, and respect for international law. We also would like to note the historic significance of this General Assembly being held in Panama as part of the celebration of the bicentennial of the Amphictyonic Congress of Panama of 1826. This is an important reference for the ideals of cooperation and dialogue amongst nations in the hemisphere. These are principles that are still relevant today and that must continue to guide the work of the inter-American system. In this regard, Guatemala recognizes that holding the General Assembly in Panama is a timely opportunity to renew our collective commitment of member states to have an OAS that is more effective, representative, and results-oriented, that can support the real priorities of our peoples and respond using hemispheric cooperation to address our challenges. The delegation of Guatemala will actively take part in the 56th regular session of the OAS General Assembly, and we are ready and willing to work constructively to support dialogue, mutual respect, and consensus building. Lastly, we would like to recognize the Panamanian government for its efforts as host country, and we wish the government the greatest success in this preparatory work, and we wish them the greatest success for this General Assembly. Thank you. Thank you. I offer the floor to Peru, Ambassador. Thank you. We express a very warm welcome to the Foreign Minister of Panama on the occasion of this meeting to present information on the preparations for the 56th regular session of the General Assembly. For Peru, this upcoming assembly is especially important. It is taking place in a brother country with which we have very strong historic, diplomatic, historic, and cultural ties. It is also an important moment for us to reflect upon multilateralism in the Americas today and in the future. We wish to express our gratitude to the government of Panama for organizing the assembly. We know that under Panama's leadership, this will be an opportune time for us to reflect upon the principles of the inter-American system, protecting human rights, democracy, the rule of law, hemispheric security, integral development, and cooperation based on solidarity amongst our peoples. Peru also values the fact that this General Assembly is taking place at a time when we can commemorate also the Amphicyonic Congress of Panama, convened 200 years ago by Simón Bolívar. This was one of the first expressions of this democratic vocation in our hemisphere, a call to unity in the hemisphere. This historic memory is still relevant today at a time when the international context is seeing geopolitical tensions, and the spirit of Panama recalls to us that consensus building is still a key instrument for preserving peace, strengthening democracy, and promoting the well-being of our peoples. Mr. Foreign Minister, you can count on Peru's full support to ensure that this upcoming General Assembly is a great success. Our delegation will take part in the Assembly, in the preparatory work, and in organizing the comments submitted by member states, as well as activities to mark the commemoration of the Congress of Panama. We are sure that Panama will welcome us with hospitality, efficiency, and the integration-based spirit that has long characterized it. Thank you.
Embajador.
Thank you, Ambassador. I give the floor to Uruguay Ambassador Lanza. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd also like to extend my greetings to Secretary General, Assistant Secretary General, and Uruguay would also like to express the most cordial welcome to the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Panama, His Excellency Mr. Martinez Acha Vázquez. And we take this opportunity to highlight the commitment and dedication shown by Panama and its mission in preparing the upcoming General Assembly and the organization of a number of international events that will be connected to that meeting. And no doubt it will show Panama's strength as a host of international events, and it will contribute to the multilateralism and the dialogue amongst the Americas. The next General Assembly is a very worthwhile opportunity to reaffirm the principles underpinning the Organization of the American States, and to reiterate member states' commitment to the values of peace, democracy, sustainable and integral development, and cooperation in the area of security. This meeting is also particularly relevant historically because it coincides with the commemoration 200 years of the meeting in Panama, which was one of the first efforts to promote solidarity and cooperation amongst American nations. 2 centuries later, Panama's leadership continues to be remembered, and it also reminds us of the importance of dialogue and cooperation in order to grapple with common challenges which you yourself listed: poverty, the need for integral development, and to make sure that the most impoverished be the most privileged. We also share the idea that unity requires dialogue in good faith that is transparent, dialogue that allows us to work with respect for diversity of different points of view that we see in this organization, and also the respecting the uniqueness of our peoples and countries. There's also the relevant theme, which is very central to this 56th General Assembly. We understand that the importance of defending democracy, promoting human rights and sustainable development, and institutional strengthening are all key pillars for consolidating peace in the Americas. And in coordination with our capital, our mission has actively participated in and promoted the development of the preparation for this meeting, culminating in the process of the unfolding of the mandates of this organization. And specifically, we need the necessary support of the organization for stabilization in Haiti, the declaration which relates to how we can face the common challenge of security and do so collectively. And then principles that will shine in Panama, and defending the idea that only through concerted action can we work towards a hemisphere that's more secure, fair, and democratic. Finally, we'd like to thank the government of Panama for their leadership in organizing this assembly, and we would wish them every success for their endeavors. Thank you, Ambassador. I now give the floor to Mexico. Ambassador Encinas. Thank you very much, Chair. Good morning, one and all. The delegation of Mexico would like to extend its greetings to Minister Martinez Acha Vasquez, and we would like to thank him for his presentation on the preparations of Panama for the upcoming General Assembly of the OAS. We also would like to thank him for the vision and concepts he presented to us about this meeting. We take note of the draft Declaration of Panama and resolution. Mexico put forth various proposals to strengthen the text with regard to the Charter of the OAS, the Inter-American Democratic Charter, and the International Registry and Protection of Human Rights. Mexico is committed to participating in a constructive and pro-positive way in the preparations for the upcoming General Assembly. The purpose is to contribute to strengthening dialogue, cooperation regionally, and to craft consensus to make it possible to work towards legitimacy and common goals of our organization. Given the regional and global current challenges, Mexico believes its importance to preserve the OAS as a space for political dialogue and hemispheric cooperation, multilateral cooperation, based in international law and the unlimited respect of the legal system of states, sovereignty, and the principle of non-intervention. We advocate for this, and we will work so that the next General Assembly in Panama will be entirely successful. Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador. I now give the floor to El Salvador, Ambassador Acevedo. Thank you very much, Chair. El Salvador would like to recognize the Presidents and most cordially welcome His Excellency Minister Martinez Acha Vasquez, Minister for Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Panama. We would also, through him, like to thank the government of Panama for hosting the 56th General Assembly in June of this year, which is of particular importance this year because it coincides with the commemoration of the bicentennial Amphitronic Congress of Panama, which was a historic moment where we see the birth of the principles that govern our organization, guided by freedom, democracy, equality, democracy, and equality of peoples, which continues to guide our collective efforts. The theme that was proposed, firm multilateralism in defense of democracy, hemispheric safety, and the stability of states in Americas, very much reflects the concerns of our inhabitants, which are a priority on the American agenda, but also allow us to think about the role of this organization in order to bring about a safer and more prosperous hemisphere. In recognition of the diligence and firm commitment to preparing this important hemispheric meeting, El Salvador wishes every success to the sister nation of Panama and reaffirms its support and availability to work towards the high-level goals that were set for that meeting. Thank you, says the chair. I now give the floor to Ecuador, Ambassador Palencia. What are we doing here today? Sometimes in life, one still has to struggle for what one believes in. We believe that integration sometimes can elude us, and sometimes it makes us wanting to collect this. Thank you, Chair. If I may, I'd like to dedicate a few words to Don Javier Martinez. On behalf of the Republic of Ecuador, I'd like to welcome him and extend the warmest greetings. For the Panamanian, nothing is foreign. It's an ism which knows to lead with glory. It knows to hold the homeland in one's heart, harboring memory, the memory of construction in the midst of dissension. Mr. Minister, you have a historic challenge before you. Panama is receiving the hemisphere once again with the same spirit of integrating vocation that has always marked its history. It's not a coincidence that it's precisely Panama which is the space where our nations will meet. It would seem that the very spirit of Bolivar is behind this. I say the spirit because there were other, like our great Ecuadorian Eugenio Speco, who said that we need to come together and integrate when we have a common fate due to our common history. For Ecuador, it's especially worthwhile that in this context, we would highlight the legacy of Panama of hosting the 1826 bicentennial meeting as a moment of political consultation which continues today and which continues to guide the work of this organization. We believe in union, even in dissension, and we know that we will build integration with a great deal of willingness. The delegation of Panama wishes every success to Panama in organizing the 56th regular session of the General Assembly, and it also renews its conviction that Republic of Panama, faithful to its historic tradition, will welcome in the best possible manner the representatives of the nations of this hemisphere. Please, Minister, let's not allow ourselves to have more problems. Let's head towards this General Assembly together. Thank you, says the chair. I give the floor to Colombia. Thank you. I'd like to welcome and extend a special greeting to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister Martinez Acha Vázquez. We deeply are grateful to the government and people of Panama for hosting the 56th General Assembly of the OAS. The generous offer by Panama allows us to return to the main forum politically of the hemisphere, which is in Panama, reaffirming their historical commitment to diplomacy and regional dialogue. For Colombia, this assembly is particularly important because holding it is significant in that it marks the commemoration of the bicentennial of the Amphitryon Congress of Panama, which was the first forum of multilateralism in the Americas. This historical moment in their country marks it as the epicenter of the American consensus. Colombia wishes to participate in the most proactive, constructive way, and we wish you every success in holding this meeting. Thank you. Thank you. I now give the floor to Grenado.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, Secretary General, Assistant Secretary General. The delegation of Grenada warmly welcomes His Excellency Minister Javier Martinez Acha Vázquez, and we thank you for the perspectives and thoughts you've made in your presentation regarding the preparations for the 56th regular session of the General Assembly in Panama City. Grenada views the upcoming assembly as more than a procedural gathering. Convening in Panama during the bicentennial year of the 1826 Amphitryon Congress gives this meeting particular historical and symbolic significance for our hemisphere. 2 centuries later, the aspiration for cooperation among sovereign states
grounded in mutual respect, in peace, and collective progress, remains as relevant as ever. For the Caribbean, for Grenada, Panama occupies a special place in our shared hemispheric history. The Panama Canal stands not only as a strategic maritime corridor, but also as a reminder of the sacrifices and contributions of generations of Caribbean people whose labor helped to shape that global enterprise. Madam Chair, Grenada therefore approaches the General Assembly with a strong interest in ensuring that the inter-American system remains responsive, can grow in being responsive as well to the realities confronting member states today, particularly those of us who are smaller in the hemisphere. Our hemisphere continues to face interconnected challenges that we cannot avoid working towards the elimination of and the solutions for. Climate vulnerability, transnational crime, economic uncertainty, debt pressures, even migration pressures as well, and increasing technological disruption. At the same time, we must ensure that the multilateral system itself remains credible, inclusive, and capable of delivering meaningful, very meaningful cooperation. For us small states especially, this means preserving policy space, ensuring fair treatment within the systems, and strengthening access to things like financing, as we continuously call for, and avoiding approaches that can marginalize especially vulnerable economies in disproportionate ways. Grenada believes that the hemispheric security and prosperity, as you have mentioned, Honorable Minister, are strongest when they are built upon trust, on transparency and partnership and respect for our sovereignties. In that regard, we welcome Panama's efforts to convene a forward-looking and constructive assembly. Minister Martinez Acha, Grenada assures you of its full cooperation and support as preparations continue, and we look forward to engaging productively in Panama City in pursuit of a hemisphere that is a more secure, more resilient, and more united one. I thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ambassador Francis. Y ahora le damos la palabra.
And we now give the floor to the United States.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The United States welcomes Foreign Minister Javier Martinez Acha Vasquez to the Permanent Council and thanks the government of Panama for its leadership and preparation for the upcoming 56th regular session of the General Assembly. Panama has long played an important role in the advancing regional cooperation, democratic governance, economic connectivity, and hemispheric security. We appreciate Panama's close partnership with the Organization of American States and its commitment to ensuring a productive and forward-looking General Assembly. As our hemisphere confronts increasingly complex challenges, including foreign terrorist organizations, narco-terrorism, illegal immigration, cyber threats, malign influence, and others, the OAS remains an important forum for collective action and dialogue. The General Assembly offers an important opportunity for member states to reaffirm and share commitment to the viability and strength of this organization. As Panama prepares to host this year's General Assembly, my delegation would also like to recognize the special historical significance of 2026. This year, we are celebrating several important anniversaries, including the 250th anniversary of the independence of the United States, the bicentennial of the Congress of Panama, and the 25th anniversary of the Inter-American Democratic Charter. These anniversaries remind us that the ideals of sovereign cooperation, good governance, liberty, and hemispheric partnership have deep roots in our shared history, and they offer an important opportunity to connect the OAS's work with the broader 250 commemoration across the Americas. The United States welcomes the opportunity to continue our close partnership with Panama and all member states to advance practical and consensus-based outcomes that strengthen the effectiveness and relevance of this organization for the peoples of our hemisphere. We also welcome Panama's continued engagement on regional security cooperation and efforts to strengthen multilateral coordination across our hemisphere. Foreign Minister Martinez Acha, thank you again for joining us today, and we wish Panama every success on the hosting of the upcoming General Assembly. Thank you.
Muchísimas
Thank you very much. I now give the floor to Honduras Ambassador Regina. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. We wish to reiterate our gratitude to the Minister of the Republic of Panama, Don Javier Martinez Acha Vasquez, for accompanying us today in this council. Honduras is fully committed to the preparatory work for the meeting, and we advocate for a successful meeting in Panama, which coincides with the bicentennial of the Amphitryon Congress of Panama. And our dearest wishes to the sister nation of Panama. Thank you, Ambassador. I now will give the floor to Haiti. Ambassador. Thank you, Madam Chair, Mr. Secretary General, Madam Assistant Secretary General, dear colleagues, Mr. Minister. Haiti, with great esteem and friendship, welcomes you amongst us today. We also appreciate the presentation you just made on the organization of the upcoming General Assembly of the Organization of American States that will be taking place in June in your country. This General Assembly will not be an ordinary meeting. It will be charged with history at a time when our history is commemorating the bicentennial of the Amphitryon Congress of Panama of 1826, that great founding moment when the first time, with great strength, the idea was forged of an America that would think of itself as a space for dialogue, solidarity, and a place to stand in unity. For Haiti, this commemoration resonates particularly strongly because Haiti, the first Black republic in the world, the first nation that emerged from a victory against slavery, became independent alongside the freedoms of the peoples of our continent. And yet in the Congress of 1826, Haiti was not called upon to take its place at that historic table. 2 centuries later, Mr. Ministry, history seems to be sending us a strong signal. Haiti was designated by the OAS to prepare this meeting in Panama. This is not just a titulary honor, it's a return of history. And that's why, for Haiti, this assembly can be seen as an assembly that repairs the ties of fraternity in history, not in reproach, but in recognition and fidelity to the peoples of the Americas. Haiti is today what it was already in the 19th century, a nation attached to liberty, the dignity of all people, the dignity of the continent, and solidarity at all levels. We thank the dear government of Panama for its commitment, its hospitality, and the symbolic contribution it's making to this General Assembly. Panama will be welcoming the Americas, and through this meeting, the Americas will have an opportunity to remember, to recognize itself, and perhaps to fraternally repair part of its history. Thank you.
Monsieur l'Ambassadeur.
Thank you, Ambassador. And I now give the floor back to the Minister who would like to thank you for your comments. You have the floor, Mr. Minister. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I enthusiastically, very enthusiastically, receive all of your statements. I come to you through a very private path. I've been minister for 2 years, and I can say to you that cooperation amongst all nations is essential. The Americas stand as one, and no one can be excluded. No state seated at this table can be excluded. or remove itself from the great deliberations that we're having today and that we will have in the future. My country, and the nature of its geography, made us a connecting state, a connector for markets, goods, oceans, continents. And as minister, I would hope, the minister from my country, I would hope, as a minister of President Molino, I would hope that Panama would link or connect cooperation, solidarity, understanding, and especially tolerance. I speak from a country that is small in territory, but one that is huge in its vocation to find solutions to our problems. We must respect each other within our differences. But in coming here, for me, this was an exercise about what I could show. How could I appear here? And I'm sure if we sit down and have a debate, we will find solutions. And I feel that Mr. Bolivar would have been a great friend of Mr. Washington. And I say that because both of them were leaders of independence. They were founders of a continental vision, symbolic of freedom and sovereignty. And they were persons that went beyond the military in order to become moral reference points, political reference points for our Americas. I cannot be sure, but I think that Simón Bolívar would very much have admired Mr. Washington, and Mr. Washington would have admired Mr. Bolívar, because they believed deeply in constitutions of countries. And I leave the task perhaps to American and Latin American historians, but they might be able to describe how this debate would unfold today. And if I may, I'd like to conclude with this. Washington gave freedom to a nation. Bolívar dreamed of freeing a continent. And both represent the conviction that freedom does not belong to a people, but to the destiny and fate of the Americas. Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias, señor canciller.
Thank you very much, Minister, for those closing remarks. As there are no further requests for the floor, I once again would like to thank the Minister of the Republic of Panama for his presentation and for the information that was shared in the context of preparing the 56th regular session of the General Assembly. This permanent council reaffirms its willingness to accompany the preparations in a constructive spirit, in that spirit of cooperation that you mentioned in your statement, Mr. Minister, based on dialogue among states with the view to crafting a General Assembly which will be productive and reflects our common goals. I'd like to thank the Secretary General and Assistant Secretary General for all of their efforts to prepare a successful General Assembly. And also I'd like to thank you for your statement, Mr. Secretary General. Colleagues, we have now concluded today's session, but I'd just like to ask you for an important favor. And before you leave the session, the Minister would like to come to your office, your office, as it were, your seat, to be able to greet you. So if you wouldn't mind staying so that he could, out of protocol and courtesy, be able to come and greet you. And thank you for your participation today. Thank you one and all. We take note of your comments and they will be recorded in the minutes of today's meeting. Thank you.